Welcome to Every Mom is an Athlete, the podcast where we believe motherhood is inherently athletic. From lifting car seats to chasing toddlers, your daily life is a workout. I'm Dr. Karlie, pregnancy and postpartum expert, sports chiropractor, strength coach, and mom of three. This is your space for strength, recovery, and real talk in pregnancy, postpartum, and motherhood. Welcome, strong moms. You're in the right place. Hello, strong moms. Welcome back. I'm so happy you're here today. Today, I'm going to share with you my 1 year postpartum check-in. And I don't do these episodes to be like, here's what I'm doing at 1 year postpartum. No, I share these because when I was a new mom with my first baby, I remember how curious I was how other people were doing and like what was normal and like, what are you doing in the gym? And like, should I get this checked out? And so this is not for comparison. This is just to give you some information, especially after having done this 3 times and also helping like thousands of women through this. I feel like I have a pretty good feeling of what's normal at what phase and like when you might need help. So first of all, I cannot believe that my baby is 1. You know, if you've been there, it just, oh my gosh, it goes so fast. She is walking a little bit. She's like finally getting steady, you know, and it doesn't look quite as robotic and hilarious. She's pointing to things. She's starting to say like some words. Obviously, like you would have no idea what she's saying, but I, can kind of figure out what she's saying. And I do feel like it's just gone so much faster this time around as compared to the first 2. So just a quick little background on my first 2 postpartums. The first one, my son, I was induced and I did have preeclampsia. I hate saying that. I feel like I always just say like, oh, my blood pressure got high because I just had this whole idea of how I wanted my birth to go. And then it obviously did not go that way. So I was induced. I got an epidural. I actually had a very great birth and labor. It just was like it wasn't what I envisioned, right? And like, I mean, it hardly ever is. But so that was my first postpartum experience. My second, my son was breech. And so I did have a planned C-section. So I can't even begin to compare this postpartum experience to my last one because it's just like apples to oranges or like apples to carrots. It's so different. And I am a little bit older this time. So I had my third baby just before I turned 40. And there was definitely some changes in recovery, in physical exhaustion from 37, I think, with my second son to 39, almost 40, for sure. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is how much more confident I am this time around, which obviously comes with experience. Just knowing that like, okay, this is a phase. Everything is a phase. Really like everything with my body, everything with the baby, like everything is a phase that we like get to move through. And so keeping that in mind has been really helpful. I remember with my first son, him going through kind of a fussy phase at night. And we figured out that we were basically like trying to keep him up too late and he was overly tired. But I remember thinking like, this is never going to end. And now I want to encourage new moms, first time moms so much, like it is going to end. It's all just a phase. And now I know that the calmer, the more regulated that my system is, the better my kids are going to respond. Like they are wired to tune in to respond to how we're responding. So if we're anxious and nervous and upset, like that's only going to feed what they're feeling. So all of that to say, I'm not trying to like guilt or shame anyone, obviously, but it's just a reminder to take a breath, take a beat, do some breathing exercises, some self-regulation, whatever that looks like for you, because it really does make a difference in how your baby's going to respond, especially if they're all worked up. All right, as far as recovery goes, I am feeling pretty darn good at a year. I always tell my patients, I've experienced this and I see it in my patients right around the 9-month mark. A lot of women kind of turn a corner where they're like, oh, okay, I'm really feeling like myself again. Like I'm not all the way there, obviously, but there just is something that happens where lots of times babies are sleeping through the night by that point. So you're getting a little more rest. You're getting more in the groove and the routine of things. And I just see like I feel and I see a little light kind of like bing, come on. And so that did happen for me this time around too. Right around 9 months, I was like, okay, my body is physically looking a little more like I'm used to. I'm feeling so much stronger. I will say I am dealing with a pretty gnarly shoulder strain on the left side, and I know why. I see it in my practice all the time. It's from carrying my daughter on that left side all the time because I'm right-handed, so then I want to use my right hand. I was also sleeping on that side, so my husband and I have actually switched sides of the bed, so I sleep more on my right side. And then I'm doing a lot of sort of my own physical therapy to recover that shoulder, to restabilize it, but it is taking a long time because my daughter is big. My boys were both pretty small, and my daughter is 24 pounds, I think. I'm just like building a little squatting machine. I'm so excited, but she's heavy, and I always carry her on that side. I'm trying so hard not to, but then, it's awkward. Then the baby's like, this feels awkward. This doesn't feel right. They can like feel that. So then she doesn't want to be carried on that side. So anyways, all that to say, I see you if that's going on. There is a lot you can do. Massage has been helping. I've been getting some cupping, getting adjusted, especially around my ribs and my neck and my upper back has been helping a lot. And then doing some exercises just to get my shoulder blade to like sit flat against my ribs and not have that shoulder just tipped so far forward. So a lot of pec stretching too, kind of stretching out the front of the shoulder. So if you're dealing with that, lots of things to try. Reach out. I'm happy to help point you in the direction of someone who can help you if you need, because that is it's a very, very common. I did stop nursing my daughter around 10 months. I believe we started using formula around the 8-month mark. Again, I sort of have a hard time remembering. I'm like, is that when it was? Because it's all just such a blur. But I want to say right around the 8-month mark is when we started doing some combo feeding with formula. She was eating some solids and some, softer foods and whatever. And then also still nursing. And so right around 10 months is when she completely weaned off. And that's sort of been the case with all of my kids right around there. I just can't seem to keep the milk train going for much longer than that, which is fine. I always did want to make it to a year, but never quite did. So that's totally fine. So that's where we're at with that. There are definitely in those next couple months after you wean off, there are some huge hormonal shifts. So I have been also dealing with that. I've had some pretty gnarly migraines. I do get hormonal related migraines sort of around my menstrual cycle and around ovulation. And so I am dealing with that a little bit, I would say a little bit more intensely than the norm. And that's also, again, that's normal. These hormonal changes, the few months, even up to 3, 4, 5 months after you're done nursing, your body is, again, just like kind of recalibrating. So again, I just share that so that you know that that is a normal thing. Obviously, you do want to talk to your doctor about that, especially if you haven't had migraines or headaches before, and get that checked out. For me, I have a medication that helps. And so I'm doing that, plus all the other things that I know are helpful. And that's been going okay. Now in the gym, I'm feeling, besides this freaking shoulder pain, I'm feeling really strong. I would wager to say that my core feels stronger right now than it probably did before I had kids. And I think the reason is I'm pretty sure I had a diastasis, a little separation of my abs before I had kids. Thinking back on it, now that I know so much more, I can look and see like, oh yeah, like when I would do core exercises with my back pressed flat on the floor, I would always kind of get that little doming or pooching, and I couldn't really keep it down. I couldn't really control the pressure, which is totally normal and like a very common thing to have that separation. But I think because I've done so much work now and learned to use those deep core muscles, I think that a lot of times we don't learn to do that before. It's like we just muscle through it, and maybe you're younger and you're stronger and you're in the gym a lot and like, great. But now I have to use those deep core muscles. And so I really do. My core feels stronger than I think it did before. The rest of my body, maybe not so much, but for sure my core. Also, I know that my focus on core work through my pregnancy this time around was so different. I didn't have my Prego Core plan the first 2 pregnancies. And I did work out a lot harder through those pregnancies. This pregnancy, I was a lot more gentle with myself. I still worked out a lot, but I did more bodybuilding. I did more Peloton. I wasn't doing as intensive CrossFit and weightlifting. And I think that my body liked that better. I think I recovered better. And that focus on core really kept me strong in my back, my glutes, and obviously in my core and my abs. So that has been really great. I'm really happy with that progress. I'm back into the gym doing CrossFit, doing gymnastic stuff. I'm running probably more than I ever have. I'm not a huge runner. Personally, I help a lot of runners in my office, but that's been feeling really good. I'm doing some Peloton. I'm doing some Peloton weight classes. Yeah, so just kind of a variety of things, trying to do a little bit of bar and Pilates here and there. I'm not really a yogi, but I do, mobility. And I've really also been focusing on recovery. And that again is a difference of like maybe being a little bit older, but I am spending some time, I would say like 4 nights a week. After my kids are in bed, we have one of those little zip in saunas, and I'll sit in that or I'll take a bath, and then I'll do either use a little massager on my shoulders or on my feet or some red light. I'm just really trying to take care of my body and just help it recover as best as possible. And also focusing on like my supplements, the peptides I'm taking, my vitamins, and just really be dialed in with all of that, as well as, of course, my nutrition, which feels like the hardest thing with little kids, of course. I think the biggest thing as far as training and recovery too comes down to time. I had a mom in my office the other day actually, and she was telling me that, she's still pregnant, and she was like, I'm just so fatigued. I can't find the time to get in the gym like I used to. And I feel like I just need to start doing exercise in littler chunks and like not worrying so much about having the perfect, workout and the music and the outfit. And I was like, yes. So this is the number one thing. I feel like if I could tell all new moms this would be my number one piece of advice, is the sooner you can make that mindset shift, the better off you're going to be. You don't need the perfect playlist. Like I don't even have a bra on half the time when I'm working out in my garage. Don't worry, I'm not like in a public gym, but you don't need the perfect playlist. You don't need the perfect outfit. You don't need even like a chunk of time that you're going to have. Is that nice to have? Of course it is. But sometimes it just doesn't work. And I always tell people 10 minutes is better than no minutes. And the sooner you can get that through your head and like make that shift, the better off you're going to be. So as an example, the other day, my boys were in school. My daughter and I were at the grocery store. We came home and we were in the garage where all our workout stuff is. And she started playing with some toys. And I was like, okay, I think it's time. We're working out. Got it. And in my head, I was like, maybe I only have 5 minutes, maybe 10. I don't know. I'm just going to get done what I can. And then it ended up being 45 minutes. I got like a full workout in, and we just come from the grocery store. So I like pulled out some snacks and, I'm playing with her a little bit here and there, and it was great. But in my mind, I had to say to myself, like, I'm not going to be upset if this ends in just a few minutes. We're going to get in what we can get in. And is there a time and place for you to say like, this is my workout time. I'm going to go work out for an hour. Hubby take the kids or whatever? Yes, of course, 100%. But that can't necessarily be all the time for everyone. So grabbing onto those little moments when you can really like get some movement and activity in, I think that is the biggest game changer that I could tell all moms who want to get back into exercise. Like that's the thing to start with. Okay, now, as far as having 3 kids, it's very different, obviously, than having 2. The biggest thing that I think is, I remember one of my girlfriends was telling me, who has 3 kids before I had 3 kids, that like, she was telling me that it was easier than having 2. And I was like, you are crazy. I do not believe you. This was before we even decided to have a third. Now I see what she was saying, because so often, you have your first baby, they get all your attention, right? And then oftentimes, that baby is like 2 or 3 or whatever when you have the second one. And so they are still a baby. Like they are used to having all your attention. They're still so needy. And now you have like an actual infant baby. And so it was really hard for me. That 2 was much harder than 3. With 3, my boys, because they were 5 and almost 3 years old, they played together so much better. I could sit on the couch, nurse the baby. They're a little more self-sufficient. Of course, like I also have to break up fights and that sort of thing. But I just found that it was easier. And maybe it's that I'm more relaxed and more chill also. But this transition has been pretty nice. And I think my daughter's also kind of the quintessential third baby, what they say third babies are, just sort of because they have to be. Like she's pretty chill. She's very go with the flow. She is a little bit more laid back than the other 2 were. Again, probably because I'm more laid back also. I think the other thing that has changed for me is that my athletic identity has changed a little bit. Like I mentioned, I'm doing a lot of different things, and that feels fun, like kind of trying new things. Like I had never actually done a Peloton strength class before. Like we had the bike and I did some Peloton workouts during my pregnancy. I actually bought the bike during this 3rd pregnancy because I just found that getting up in the early mornings, which was the time I had to work out before she was born, and trying to warm up for CrossFit was unbelievably hard for me. And I could just kind of hop on the bike, do a quick little stretch and hop on the bike. But I've been trying new things, and that's super fun. Building in more consistently barre or Pilates to really focus on core work has been really great. And so that athletic identity that I used to have of like, I still love to weightlift, but like being a serious CrossFitter and wanting to compete and like doing all this stuff, I still think I might like to compete someday, maybe next year for fun, but it wouldn't be as intense. And I'm like, I'd probably do better because I'd just be having a good time, We'll see if I get back into that. But I've been snowboarding. That feels great. I was so shocked how strong I felt. My legs felt good. My core felt fine. My pelvic floor felt great. I will mention that I haven't been having any pelvic floor issues for quite some time. I saw my pelvic floor physical therapist, I think 3 or 4 times, and that was super helpful, but I haven't had any leaking, any pain, any of that stuff. If I did, I would for sure continue working with her. Now I just kind of keep her number in my back pocket if something pops up. But I always encourage women to, even if you had a C-section, just to get checked out by a pelvic floor physical therapist. You can just get so much information on how you're able to contract and relax, how the endurance of those muscles is. Those muscles, you have to remember, they're just like every other muscle. So you want to be able to contract them with good strength. You want to be able to have good endurance. And so they can just give you some feedback on that because often we don't know. And that's where a lot of women will just like start doing Kegels, but maybe you don't need to do Kegels. This, again, I'll get off my soapbox, is for a whole nother episode. But all that to say, if I was having issues there, I would for sure still be in pelvic floor physical therapy. I'm so grateful that I think all the core work, all the glute work, especially, remember your glutes are directly connected to your pelvic floor. That has been really beneficial. All right, I do not want this episode to drag on any longer, but the things I would love to tell you is that if you are newer than 1 year postpartum, that there really is no real timeline. Like things wax and wane, things can come and go, and it's all about consistency. The biggest thing I can encourage you to do is just be consistent in your movement, consistent in your core work, get things checked out when you need, or reach out to help from someone as far as like this shoulder injury, or if you're having pelvic floor issues, leaking or pain or any of that sort of stuff. That stuff deserves to be addressed. And it's not something that you should just live with and something that you should just deal with. That is not the case. There are people that can help, and it might be common, but it's not normal. And finally, our bodies are made to adapt. Every postpartum is different, so you can't compare yourself to me or even to your previous postpartum experiences. Your body is completely different. Every time I have a woman come into my office after she's had a baby, I have her make a 1 hour long appointment because I say, you are basically a new patient. You have a whole new body. You have a whole new set of history we have to go over. And so just keep that in mind. Your body is brand new, and you can rebuild it back however you want. Of course, if you need any help, my postpartum plan is there for you. I have one for a C-section, one for vaginal birth. Check that out. If you didn't do any postpartum rehab, especially, it's never too late to start that. It is a full body plan. And I have just seen women have such great results getting back to doing the things that they love to do. So go ahead and check that out. The link is below in the show notes. I have just seen women have such great results and success getting back to doing the things that they love to do postpartum. All right, strong moms, until next time, I hope this was helpful. See you next week.
Thanks for listening. Every Mom is an Athlete isn't just a podcast. It's a reminder that you're still the athlete you've always been. If this episode resonated with you, I'd so appreciate it if you'd share with a friend or leave a quick review. It helps more moms find the support and information they need. See you next time.